In a recent video in which I talked about Trump's astrology, I mentioned that in addition to August being a month filled with landmines and therefore difficult, this last week of July didn't look too safe either on account of transiting Venus touring through the degrees of his moon and sun, which ordinarily is quite alright and even all the way to very positive, but not when transiting Neptune is at right angles to his two lights, making the Venus transit a lot more problematic. You'll recall that late last week, Trump, and this according to just about all the media outlets, had decided to change his tone. Though reporters did speculate he was doing this in response to very bad poll numbers, the change in tone message was heard all the way from Fox News to NPR and everywhere in between. The more skeptical members of the media dismissed it by saying, "Oh, don't worry, this won't last. He can't stick to anything. He has to be himself," basically meaning he'll return to his gaslighting mendacious ways soon. Well, sure enough, and right on astrological cue, so to speak, as soon as Venus made contact, he started retweeting conspiracy theories and stories about COVID that, among a host of other insanities, stated that mask wearing wasn't necessary. This completely contradicted his message on the podium in which he said it might be a good idea to start wearing masks after all. The man is incorrigible, there's no doubt about it. And I'm not sure it's great comfort to correlate all of this astrologically, but at least we can do that much, and if nothing else, continue to marvel and appreciate the exquisite correlations between human behavior and the movement of the planets. As you've heard me say a number of times, this guy is all talk, all messaging, all about creating realities through his language, and nearly always realities that he perceives will suit him, help his cause, move things in the directions he wants. That's the Jupiter and Neptune in the third sign of messaging, and the ruler Venus living in the 12th and ruling his zenith midheaven career sector. So what house would you go looking for conspiracy theories in? I would say the 12th is a pretty good place, don't you think? His problem is that right now, at this moment in time, meaning 2020, these crackpot theories don't land well, first because of the Neptune square, even if simultaneously that very square is inclining him to feverishly indulge in such theories. Remember that his natal Neptune in the third of messaging is ruled by Venus in the 12th. And second, because the Capricorn cluster is opposite his Venus, so he's going to get major pushback. Even Jupiter, the cudgel he uses to infuse everything with noxious enthusiasm, big, bigger, best, greatest ever, not seen since whenever, isn't helping either, because it's also opposed from the cluster. But ironically, just like Neptune, it's also inclining him to do it even more frequently and more insanely than usual. Bottom line, this guy is not going to stop lying, gaslighting, or stepping on his own message. He doesn't have a different way. This is the way he is, and this is what he will continue to do. But I take refuge in the fact the planets are not going to cooperate now or in the next several months. In response to my ending a previous video by stating that things wouldn't get better, they would actually get worse, someone said, "Worse? How can it get worse than tear-gassing mothers?" The answer is that I meant worse for him, which in practical terms means bad poll numbers followed by a bad election result, with all the attendant consequences, which, I think for him, are many and are all quite bad. I think we have to thank the planet patterns these days, because the way they are lined up, they tend to render him ineffective by blocking his most nefarious attempts to lie, cheat, and steal with impunity. Saturn, for one, is famous for blocking the way when in tight opposition, and it will be in his face until December, so good luck with that. And Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are right in there as well. Not quite as tight, but with Saturn as the core pushback, more than tight enough to provide a hellish landscape for the Orange Menace. Exactly what he deserves, I say.